17% of all children experience obesity every single day, according to Natalie Cook. Obesity is not just detrimental to your body, but it is also detrimental to your mental health. So there is a constant comparison between yourself and the person sitting next to you. Childhood obesity is one of the most common diseases and killers throughout the whole world, and it is always necessary to be informed about what is killing our peers. I've written multiple papers and given multiple speeches not only about obesity, but also weight loss. Obesity is a major issue, and I'm going to help others realize how big of an issue it is. In this speech, I will talk about childhood obesity and the causes of it, as well as the consequences of obesity, and finally, I will talk about the preventions of obesity. As mentioned before, as time keeps going on and the world starts to evolve, childhood obesity remains one of the most common diseases all over the world. Childhood obesity is a disease that often seems to be misunderstood and overlooked. Obesity is not only crippling to every child who experiences it, but it is also misunderstood by many. According to the Mayo Clinic, children who are obese are above the average weight for their height and age. Obesity is often much harder on children than it is adults, as it starts them on a path of lifelong health problems that started off as something only being seen in adults. Also, children who have either one or two parents who are obese are also more likely to become obese as well. Like most diseases, obesity in children has multiple causes, such as poor parenting. According to the Johns Hopkins Medical Center, there have been many links shown between physical, verbal, and sexual abuse. Along with many other mental illnesses, there's always coping, and coping is often done by eating. Therefore, children who are experiencing this type of treatment from their parents often eat as a way to experience comfort. According to the College of Pharmacy at the University of Sharjah, childhood obesity is also very commonly caused by consuming a high amount of high-calorie foods with little to none exercise. As most of us can relate, no one wants to reach for a carrot rather than a donut. So, when children are sad, they are often reaching for fried, high-calorie foods. More and more studies through this pharmacy are finding that children, a part of a lower socioeconomic status, often don't have a safe place for physical exercise, in addition to the lack of access they have to healthy foods. Because of the lack of access they have to these things I mentioned before, children tend to have to eat foods that may not spoil quickly, frozen foods. Along with eating frozen meals, there seems to be an increased intake of fried and fast foods. Reaching for high-calorie, fried, and frozen foods is very commonly seen when looking at childhood obesity rates. Now that I've discussed what childhood obesity and the causes of it, we will look at the consequences of being obese. Obesity becomes even more dangerous when other health risks are involved. As children start gaining more and more weight, they start to present other health issues, usually seen in adults, such as hypertension. Hypertension is now very commonly seen in obesity patients, according to Richard N. Ray, a medical doctor. The Framingham Heart Study estimates that nearly 78% of primary hypertension in boys is due to obesity, while 65% of hypertension in girls is due to obesity. Because of this increase of obesity and it being correlated with hypertension, more and more cases of obesity are seen to be more life-threatening than ever before. In addition to what was stated before by Richard N. Ray and the Framingham Heart Study, he also mentions that not only is hypertension a consequence of obesity, but cardiovascular diseases are as well. Haley Billingsley, a medical doctor, states in an academic journal that because of excessive weight gain, the structure of the heart becomes altered. When the structure of the heart is altered, that's when things such as heart failure and coronary heart disease are presented. When a patient has heart failure, they are constantly experiencing shortness of breath, fatigue, weakness, etc. However, rather than the horrible symptoms of heart failure, they may present symptoms of coronary heart disease. According to the CDC, those symptoms include chest pain, weakness, lightheadedness, nausea, etc. Another major consequence is the effect of obesity on a child's mental health. A review done by the doctors stated above concluded that the majority of children often have a relationship between their obesity and mental health, often causing depression. So not only is there an increase in depression, but a decrease in their self-esteem. Research shows that overweight children compare themselves with normal weight children, lowering their self-esteem. Also, children, particularly girls, show symptoms of eating disorders. After discussing multiple consequences of being obese, let's look at how obesity can be prevented. Although people are constantly reminded that obesity can't be fixed, it actually can in multiple ways. One major way of reducing the increase of obesity is through using schools to give children a cleaner way of eating without involving their home lives. A healthier diet can be achieved in multiple ways through schools. One way that was heavily presented by the Cochrane Library was by mainly changing the overall way students eat every day. One of the specific options that the source from above mentions is by improving the nutritional quality that is distributed throughout schools. Another way teachers specifically can help reduce obesity is by participating in physical activities themselves. This is what will mention the idea to students to be more motivated to do it themselves. Another way is to promote cultural and environmental ways to promote eating healthier foods rather than the non-clean options. These administrators in this library also recommend simply just increasing physical activity lessons throughout the day, on a day-to-day basis, allowing more opportunities for these activities to be accomplished. Lindsay B. Fletcher introduces the idea that physical activity not only increases weight loss, but also increases a high self-esteem as well as higher self-images. Due to the author from above reveals the true need for physical activity for the prevention or maintenance of obesity due to mainly the mental aspect. She states that studies show how physical activity produces dopamine, making one happier. Finally, another way to prevent or maintain obesity is by getting them involved with kids their own age. When kids are around the kids their own age, they are more likely to exercise and play, burning more energy and calories. The CDC also recommends offering community efforts, meaning communities to promote healthier ways of living. The CDC also recommends keeping children involved. When a child doesn't know anything about their disease, they are less likely to work for it. When they know what is going on, they're more likely to realize why life changes are necessary. As time keeps going on and the world starts to evolve, childhood obesity remains one of the most common diseases all over the world. Today, I discussed the causes and the meaning of childhood obesity. Then I spoke about the consequences of obesity. Finally, I mentioned multiple preventions and reasons to be educated about obesity. Now that we have reflected on all that has been informed during this speech, let's look at why this topic is important. In conclusion, throughout a child's life, they are constantly faced with battles, whether it's body image or an unstable home life. Because of all of these challenges or battles, it is often that a child copes with eating. Due to the world we live in today, obesity needs to be normalized while also being treated, as it affects each person in every different way. I want obese children to understand why their health is so important so they can realize their purpose.